This week, I was in a coaching session for myself. In that coaching session, I brought forward a concern that I was trying to reconcile to. I'd had this impression that I needed to change my weekly schedule. It felt like the right next step, but my head was really concerned that I was going to negatively affect my business outcomes by actually cutting out client session times and making more white space in my week. My body was sending up that warning signal that it does when it says, we've never done this before. This feels a little bit dangerous. Don't go there. And if I had put my request into my AI assistant, I would have gotten a very different schedule recommendation from all of the experts that it accesses versus what my impression was. It was interesting when I engaged with my coach that she would continue to say, Jenny, come back into you. I keep seeing you going up into your head. My head was looking for all these connection points of what might be the right next step for me. But as I continued to drop into myself, I was so interested in the clarity that continued to come. And I was reminded of the power of what we can access when we live in that home-based orientation. When we come back to the wisdom that is already here. Those disparate voices, those fears, those concerns started to quiet as that inner wisdom, that impression that I had, was able to clearly stay on the front. I left the session with, admittedly, a divergent schedule, something that perhaps not everyone might choose. But for me, it was innovative, it was fresh, it was filled with movement, and it was totally aligned with me and my next step. I knew I was going in the right direction. Consider this question for you. What if the more you come home to yourself, the more access you have to a kind of intelligence that no algorithm or external best practice can replicate? 1 year ago, we started on this journey in Come Home to You. And I am so grateful to spend time with you and that you would join me in this journey. The podcast concept was based on this idea that the most powerful leadership move anyone could make was to come home to themselves. It was that simple and that difficult. The invitation was to stop chasing and to start listening, to connect inward, to connect upward, to remember the wisdom we already hold and then have the courage to act from that space of wisdom. As we've explored and practiced together, what have you noticed? Has anything changed in how you think, or your confidence, or your capacity to change and try something new? Perhaps your self-reflection is a bit more honest or full of grace. Maybe there's less proving and striving to have enoughness. Just like me, maybe you've seen changes in the ways you make decisions or lead others or interact with those you love, including yourself. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to the next evolution of this podcast. Welcome to the Real Intelligence Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Swim, and I'm so glad you're here. In honor of the podcast's 1-year birthday, Come Home to You now has a new name, look, and feel. But before things feel too different, let me highlight what is changing and what is not. First, we have a new cover. So when you pull up the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, it will look different, which is probably a really good thing because we've gone from Jenny's non-designer graphics to beautiful professional graphics that I'm really excited about. I love a good symbolic representation of something, and in our new design, you'll find meaning and message, if that's something that you enjoy and want to take a look at. Big thanks to Lexi at legacybranding.design and Christine at Mindfulness for Life for their truly expert help in this process. I'm so grateful. The second thing that's changed is the name, and there's 2 reasons for this. First, we needed to make it easier for people to find. Come home, it turns out, is a very common phrase, and there's a lot of noise in that space. So it's difficult for people to find the podcast. Second, I really wanted to take the next step as a group to more fully reflect what we access as we live from that home-based orientation. When we really come home to ourselves, what we're accessing is real intelligence, and that matters. Here's why. Real intelligence is foundational to every choice a leader makes. Whether you're leading yourself, leading a family, leading a team, leading a business, leading in the community. Real intelligence affects how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the world. And your ability to access real intelligence will either limit or expand the possibilities of your trajectory. So let's take a minute to define it. Real intelligence is how we understand and move through the world, and it includes 3 key elements. First, we have to orient to us, who we are in the world, how we see ourselves. This is part of that coming home to us process. We have to recognize our own intelligent creation, that we are an agent to go into the world, to make choices, to make decisions. That agency is a really important part of creation and of that intelligence that we hold. This reflects some of the work we've been doing with Come Home to You and that we'll continue to do in this evolution of the podcast. How are we perceiving ourselves? Is it accurate? Is it honest? How we see ourselves naturally carries out into how we see others. For me, Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote is very interesting. He says, quote, "Every man is divinity in disguise, a god playing the fool," end of quote. I know we all come to our own understanding of self in different ways. But may I offer that real intelligence includes honoring divine design, recognizing that you are not an accident, that your creation, your uniqueness is purposeful. There is design. There is pattern. There's a reason for the unique combination of your gifts that uniquely allows you to fulfill your purpose, to do your work that is uniquely suited to your mission and work in life. Second, we have to orient to the world or the environment around us. Real intelligence includes that orientation. Once we've oriented to self, now what is around us that we're engaging with? For that, we need to understand the various realities of our environment. Think about getting dropped off on a new planet. We show up, we need to orient to that space. Is it safe to even be in the atmosphere of that place? Do I need extra equipment in order to survive? What is dangerous about that place? What is helpful about that place? Is there gravity? If I put my foot down on the surface of that planet, what will happen? What can be trusted? We're essentially making these kind of decisions every day as we navigate in the world. We have to be able to discern, decide, decode, so that we can act wisely in that environment that we're in. This is especially important in a world of isomorphic and algorithmic mimicry. Now, I know that's like, well, those are big words right now. It simply means that we live in a world where things have a form or an appearance that is not necessarily the case. It looks real. It looks like it has my best interest. That influence seems like it wants to help. It seems human even. But is it? So we have to have the ability to recognize, to understand this world around us in a way that's true and real. Third, once we orient to ourself and orient to this world, we need a way to engage, right? We recognize we have these two players. We have us and we have this world around us, but there has to be a way that we get to interact or relate with this world so we can discern, decode, and decide within this world. How do we do that? How do we engage with the world? We have to have ways of perceiving or knowing so we can map that world before we step onto the new planet, if you will. Real intelligence includes multi-dimensional intelligence. This means we have an intellect or logic and reason that we can rely on, but we also have inspiration, or that transcendent intelligence that's bigger than us, that provides ideas beyond just our capacity. We have emotional and social intelligence that helps us in our relationship with others, with our teams, with our families, with the world around us. And we even have neuroception that's part of that somatic intelligence to understand what are risks, what are concerning, what are the data points we're picking up from the environment around us so we can stay safe. All of these different channels help us relate with that world. They help us navigate the world with real intelligence, knowing ourselves, knowing the world, and having a way to engage with that world so we can continue to move forward to what matters to us. This is real intelligence. Now, we've talked about what is changing. The look, the name, a sharper focus on accessing and activating that real intelligence. But what is not changing? So we'll continue to have bi-weekly shows. We'll have great guests, practical tools, reflective questions, and continue to explore common human concerns. We'll explore what happens when you operate from that full system of intelligence, your mind, your body, your spirit, and learn to navigate a world moving toward artificial intelligence by reclaiming our real one. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so excited for our next year together. I'll see you next time. If you found this podcast helpful, I'd invite you to pass it along to someone else who might find similar benefit. Until we meet again.